All right, and we are back. The Cheech and Manny Music Show, the People's Podcast. Today we have an exciting show for you. We're going to be talking about Led Zeppelin's Presence, which I have a newfound appreciation for. But my co-hosts have always, I'm assuming, loved and listened to it for the longest time. I'm joined by the People's Bassist, Chris Carrero, and our Led Zeppelin, or I should say, resident Led Zeppelin expert, Mr. Joe Silkman. So I'll start with you, Chris. What's going on, brother?
Not much, man. How you doing? How's everything?
Oh
Yeah,
man, dude.
Presidents and I go way back, way back.
Right. And wait, and remind me, you two, did you two in your top tens? Did you have any tracks from Presence?
I think I had Achilles' Last Stand on there.
Okay.
Remember?
I didn't have any.
Okay.
I had Nobody's Fault but Mine.
Oh wow, see, that's my favorite. But okay, all right, awesome. And Joe, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. One thing about this album, I was telling Cheech earlier that I just miss the old days when I had the cabinet speakers. I had these Infinity speakers and a JVC turnstile player, and I would just crank this album. It's really loud. It sounds so much better loud. It sounds tinny by comparison, listening to it on Alexa, on Echo Dot.
That dude, what's funny? That's 100% because I have the headphones I use are like Sony like noise canceling with great bass drives and a good I think it's called an equalizer. So I blast, for example, like when I listen to Nobody's Fault But Mine. Oh my goodness, like it's, and by the way, Bonham's drumming, like you crank that up, he is still like, I'm surprised his album didn't sell well.
It's weird because I read it went to number one in my notes in England, but it was the lowest selling album for Led Zeppelin. It didn't, and we'll get into why. I think I have a couple theories about why, because it's a little different. It's definitely, I think you could say Achilles' Last Stand is definitely a prog rock
masterpiece and Led Zeppelin masterpiece.
Yeah, it's very prog influenced. So at that time, Jimmy probably had his ear listening to Yes or Genesis, thinking like,
Cheech, I don't know if you would agree with this. It has an Iron Maiden vibe too.
Achilles' Last Stand? Oh, the drum hits.
Yeah.
Yeah. That I can totally see.
I would wonder if they knew of Iron Maiden or like ran into them.
Oh, Maiden would have been 1976, just forming.
Okay, never mind. So that's interesting.
Yeah. Maiden was playing like the dive bars in 1976. if you can believe that, right? Like
they were in the, what was it, the Low East End?
They were in the East End.
East End.
They were playing little small pubs, back then. So
I love it.
A shout out to Bobby, the People Singer. Happy birthday!
Oh, happy birthday, Bobby!
Yeah, nice shout out to Bobby. But yeah, so I guess we'll dive right in.
Dive right in. Let's drop the needle.
Okay. Put the needle on the record.
Cheech's guitar album.
What?
That's what I think. It's Jimmy's baby. It was his album. No acoustic, no keyboards, and rocking it out. And he worked really hard on this.
And I will say, to Joe and Manny, congratulations to the White Stripes and Chubby Checker.
Dude, I love it how Joe texts us about him playing the bass and you have to criticize. But congrats. I don't think the White Stripes or Jack White would be watching this. I hope they are, but congrats. I think it's well deserved in terms of what they did with rock in the 2000s.
Then I sent you the video of Royal Blood.
Right.
And Jimmy Page actually liked them, right, Joe? I think we talked about that. The band Royal Blood.
I think so. Yeah.
Where they're just bass and drums and like.
Yeah.
But we won't go into the. We just had a nice talk about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jack White has also done a lot for bringing vinyl back, the appreciation for vinyl.
Yep.
Yeah. made a good comeback.
Yeah, I mean, he did a lot. I mean, Cheech, I don't know if you remember, like when the White Stripes came out, which was like early 2000s. It's
Yeah,
funny because they had this evolution in sound, but and again, this is just what I saw. Um, so when I was growing up, I was listening to bands like, and I'm just gonna like first of all, rappers like Snoop Dogg and 50 Cent. I was listening to Good Charlotte or Green Day kind of made a comeback. But what the White Stripes did was that, and with the Strokes was kind in a way kind of save rock and roll because they were one of the few like bands that could rock.
yeah,
'Cause they were very few. I mean, again, I know that the White Stripes was just a drummer and guitar sound, but I feel like with Jack White and John Mayer, they were one of the few like popular guitar soloists that were kind of dying out, sadly.
yeah. I mean, I think the thing with the White Stripes is I had an old boss at the Temple, this guy Paul, who was a music head like us, and he gave me a copy of Calling Card,
Mhm.
DVD. It was like a CD. What do you call it? A CD? No, a DVD of Rory Gallagher Calling Card and the White Stripes. So I put in the Rory Gallagher. I was always a big fan. I'm like, oh my god. Then I'm like, I don't know what the White Stripes are, and I put that in. So maybe that just left a weird thing in my head or whatever. But yeah, congratulations to them, man. You know, and of course, Bad Company, Swan Song, which is really good.
Yeah. Oh, we
So,
we gotta do episodes on. I don't know if Joe, you want to join us on for this one, Bad Company.
oh
'Cause I was
yeah,
listening to their records. I think they're masterpieces. They kind of like carry. I don't know if you would agree with this. They where Led Zeppelin kind of started. They kind of continued, but sadly, they only like 3 albums though.
yeah, they're good for about 4 albums. They didn't have the writing ability.
Mm.
And if you go back further, look at Free. That was Paul Rogers and
Right.
Simon Kirk's uh, first band, uh, and Paul Kossoff was a guitar player. And I think they where Zeppelin left off, like that blues rock stuff. Bad Company just continued with it, and Zeppelin just kind of went another direction. But they didn't have the writing power, which
Uh,
sucked. But
I,
still a genuine band, a genuine great rock band. Some
I
people,
think Straight Shooter is probably one of the greatest '70s albums, and like their best.
and some people swear, Paul Rogers is the greatest rock singer of all.
He's up there. Yeah, I've seen those lists.
I would say he's up there. But okay, so 1976, and I always got to ask this question, Joe. Where were you in 1976?
I was getting my driver's permit.
I wasn't born yet.
Yeah. It was the bicentennial year.
Yeah, oh, that's right. It was a big year. It was a big deal in America. Yeah.
Well, wait a minute, Joe. Wasn't that in the Rolling Thunder Review documentary on Netflix?
That was the bicentennial year?
Remember they showed something in the beginning about that?
Oh, yeah. Well, it might have been a Memorial Day parade.
Okay.
That
But,
movie
but
is kind of funky. It's so great, the live stuff, but they involved, I guess, Martin Scorsese, and he had all these backstories, like with Sharon Stone, and they were all fictional. And
yeah,
mixed fiction with
yeah,
nonfiction.
yeah, that was crazy. I had to kind of like piece everything apart. I'm like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But Cheech, I do recommend it, Cheech. It's on Netflix.
Yeah.
it is a
I'm
great movie.
I'm
Yeah,
too
it's
busy.
phenomenal.
I'm obsessed, and I was telling Joe with true crime stuff right now. I can't because of this New England going on. I'm just obsessed with that. We got to do a true crime podcast, definitely.
It'll be like like one of the episodes, true crime.
Just so obsessed with what's going on in New England right now. So 1976, just a fun fact: Jimmy Carter was the president of the United States. Probably one of the coolest presidents because he had the Allman Brothers and Skinner to play his inauguration. How insane is that?
Wait, what? I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's pretty cool.
He loved the Allman Brothers.
And Willie Nelson. Willie Nelson smoked a joint on top of the White House roof.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how cool Jimmy Carter was. So 1976 albums: Rush, that great band put out that
Wait,
great
who? Wait, who?
a band called Rush.
Who?
I can't. 2112. Another great album. One of my all-time favorite albums. Boston's first album.
Mm-hmm. Amazing.
Classic album. Frampton Comes Alive.
Oh, phenomenal.
The Ramones' first album came out. AC/DC Dirty Deeds. One of me and Joe's favorite Aerosmith albums. Rocks.
Mm.
Out. 1976. Kiss, Destroyer. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Thin Lizzy, Jailbreak in Eagles Hotel California, and I'm sure I missed a few, but those were my favorites of that year that I could remember as a young kid.
I mean, just the fact that the massive Hotel California comes out. I mean, that record was massive.
Everything besides Rush was on
Oh,
the
and
radio.
Rush 2112, right?
Yeah, like Rush wasn't played on the radio, but like Boston was all over the radio. Frampton Comes Alive, you couldn't go anywhere. I'm sure Joe will remember. The Ramones were played a lot on the radio. Dirty Deeds, that song was constantly on the radio. Rocks, I think, I forget what song. There's a famous song on that was on the radio a lot. And Tom Petty just blew up as a radio guy. Jailbreak by Thin Lizzy. You know, Boys Are Back in Town. Think about like all these great songs that came out in 1976. Amazing. Great year for, radio rock. So before I get into talking about presents, I have to bring up 3 things that were going on that was either for Zeppelin or against them. I know 2 of them were kind of against them. Punk rock, you had the Ramones and the Pistols and Blondie was huge in 1976.
Well, especially across the Atlantic. I mean, punk really like skyrocketed
In England, so they weren't going to sell. Zeppelin was probably not going to do good with like that new young generation that was coming up.
Mm-hmm.
If it's 76, there's a bunch of kids that are graduating high school in 76 that maybe grew up on Zeppelin, but maybe they didn't. They missed them, and they got into punk. Then there was a thing called disco, which was huge. Earth, Wind, and Fire, the Bee Gees, Casey and the Sunshine Band. The Bee Gees were a little bit later, but disco was not popular yet, but it was creeping in. It was really starting to creep up on the radio. And then there was prog rock, which was in Zeppelin's favor. Yes, Genesis, ELP, and Rush. And I definitely hear the prog rock influence on Achilles' Last Stand and other songs too. I think, rhythmically and stuff like that. I don't know how you guys feel about that. The influence of those 3 things going on at that time in 1976.
Yeah, I know the punk rockers really hated Zeppelin, the ones in England especially.
Yeah, and it had to be. I think it was almost a new generation coming up because Zeppelin came out in '69, and this is '76. So if a kid was in '69 in like middle school, by 1974 he graduated high school. Maybe he didn't get Led Zeppelin, or he did, and he was switching his mind, and now this new form of music comes out, and it's punk, and it's like, oh, this is much cooler. You don't have to be good at your instrument, It was the complete opposite of like what rock and roll was, like being.
What I say about punk too? It's sort of like a rejection of, how Led Zeppelin built their sound, like the Delta blues and blues,
Yeah,
and like R&B, or maybe not so much R&B, more blues. Like I feel like punk rejected that. And how prog built its music on like Mozart, Bach, Brahms. Punks were like, no, like F that.
No. Punk, if anything, punk might have got musically influenced by like early rock and roll and just beat it up a little.
The garage rock,
Summertime Blues, MC5. That kind of stuff. Iggy and the Stooges was out, like that was punk. That's like the first punk album.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where punk, I think, got its origins from. Um,
I think there was
but
like a negative backlash against Zeppelin by the punkers because they felt that Zeppelin and those bands, the Who and the Stones, couldn't relate to what they were about, and
Mm.
the limousines, the wealth, the mansions, you
yeah.
know, it was a backlash against that. I think they thought they were wealthy. It
Well,
was
the economy, and me and Manny talked about this in the
Yeah.
new. So the economy started to really get shitty in England in
Mm-hmm.
1976. I mean, Thatcher took over in 78 or 79, but it was going down. It was going down. And this is where, like, Steve Harris always talked about, growing up poor, they lived in tenements in the East End and stuff. So the punkers, most of it came out of the East End and then in London, and they had no money. They were poor kids.
No, and it's crazy. The new wob it came from that too.
Yeah, New Wabin. It's only 2 years later. Well, actually, New Wabin is going on, believe it or not, in 76, 77. It's starting.
Mm.
It's starting to come up, starting to rise. It didn't blow up till 78. So you had punk rock, you had New Wabin. You had metal bands like UFO and Thin Lizzy were
Mm-hmm.
metal and stuff like that. Judas Priest was out. The Scorpions were out at this time. So you had heavy metal. I call it heavy metal because it was. You listen to UFO and the Scorpions, 1975, 76. It's metal. Thin Lizzy too. Oh man, it says reconnecting already. You guys can still see me, right?
Yeah. Wait, did you get a call?
No, it just says reconnecting. But okay. One standout thing for me on this album, I gotta put my 2 cents in, is John Paul Jones's bass tone.
Mm.
He was using an 8-string alembic bass. It's really punchy. It's very Entwistle sound. So he might have got inspired by the Who. Entwistle and a guy named Stanley Clarke, they were using these alembic basses that were really, really punchy and powerful.
It was. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I can really hear John Paul Jones bass playing a lot better on this album. And
Oh yeah,
and one reviewer that I read an article today said that he described it as throbbing
yeah, yeah.
bass.
It's like so different from Zeppelin 1. If you listen to Good Times, Bad Times, and then you put Achilles' Last Stand on, it's like, whoa, whoa. This bass evolved from a caveman to, Stephen Hawkins. You know what I mean? It's like, but I still love his bass tone on Zeppelin 1, I would almost say I like it better. I like the earlier bass tones better because I just like that. But it's a great bass sound. So we're looking at Achilles' Last Stand, For Your Life, Royal Orleans Side 1. Did I leave anybody out? Oh, so I left some bands out from 1976. Oh my God. Desire by Bob Dylan.
Mm.
I left out Night Moves by Bob Seger. And Kansas Left Overture. Black and Blue, The Stones, Jeff Beck, Wired, Rainbow Rising. So there was some other great. That was a great friggin' year, man.
Mm-hmm.
Now we'll get into the album. Presence came out on Swan Song, 1976. Now it went triple platinum, which is pretty good. But I don't know why people. I think the critics, the fans, like this album. It's the critics that don't like it. Got
You know what's funny? But you know what's funny? I don't think the critics never liked Led Zeppelin. I just realized that.
No.
Led Zeppelin is not they're the first People's band.
Yeah. Recorded in Musicland in Munich studios in West Germany. Page produced it. The singles are Candy Store Rock and Royal Orleans. They canceled tours because Plant got into a bad car accident with his family. And Joe, I think Jimmy Page's daughter was in the car as well.
Yeah, Robert was driving the car. His wife Maureen was in the car, and in the back seat was Scarlett Page and Plant's daughter Carmen. The kids
And
were
it was
lucky;
and it
they
was
only
in
got
Greece, I think it happened.
the island of Rhodes in Greece.
Wow.
I think it was August 4th, 1975.
Mm.
So they couldn't do the second
And
leg of
and
the.
I was gonna
Well,
say like you should pause here because that car crash was pretty significant. So it's like similar to those, when Dylan got involved in his motorcycle accident where
yeah.
it really, I was reading somewhere where Plant really was shook about it, especially afterwards. Um, and I'll be honest with you, I mean, I'm not insulting him because he's one of the greatest vocalists, but his vocals here are kind of not Plant like.
Yeah, well,
You know,
there's a lot of anger in the lyrics towards Peter Grant and Page, because Plant wanted more time, but they were on a deadline because the Rolling Stones were coming in to record Black and Blue,
right.
and they had to force. And Joe, what did you say Keith Richards called Jimmy Page?
Well, he called him the most overworked guitarist in the business at the time that
Yeah,
they finished Presence because Jimmy asked for, I think, 2 more days to finish Presence, and he hadn't done the guitar overdubs yet.
yeah,
But the Stones were kind enough to let the band, have the extra studio time, and Page basically worked 20-hour days to get it done.
yeah. So,
Wow.
so they were under a lot of pressure. Page was under pressure on the music end, and Plant wanted to be home with his family,
Right.
recovering, and he still probably had mental wounds from being in a car accident. Like that.
Yeah.
Being in a wheelchair.
He fractured his leg, and his wife fractured her skull. I think she almost died.
And the studio was not a comfortable studio. He was recording in like kitchen cupboards and was very claustrophobic and things like that. There was
I was just going to piggyback onto Plant's singing voice for the album. I mean, I think that his voice it was very clean, and it was the least ragged ever, and it was the least bluesy. His voice was, I don't know. All I can just do is describe it as clean sounding compared to Physical Graffiti, when he had a very ragged voice.
yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, he does some real great vocal stuff on it, especially on Achilles' Last Stand.
Oh yeah, definitely does.
But I feel like when you listen to this, like you were mentioning, comparing to Led Zeppelin 1, he sounds different. Like, and
Well,
let's say you didn't know the story. Let's say someone did not know the story. They'd be like, wait, like, don't get me wrong, they're really good. They're really good, but it's not like like when I listen to it, and I listened to it several times. It's like like there's something like odd in his vocals. Like you can hear it. Like something is off in a good way. In a good way, because I agree with you, Joe. His vocals on Achilles' Last Dance are phenomenal. And you're right, they're very I don't know how they recorded it, but very clear sounding. Like I can actually hear his I can actually, it's like if I'm there.
It's a great recorded album.
Oh yeah.
So what was I gonna say? Yeah, so like the Stones were coming in. After Physical, they took a break, and then Plant got into the accident. He sang, I think he sang the whole album in a wheelchair, pretty much. It was the fastest recorded Led Zeppelin album since their debut, and Plant was uncomfortable. He felt claustrophobic singing a lot of it because he was in a wheelchair, and he was angry because he wanted more recovery time and he wanted to spend more time with his family, and he actually thought about quitting the band at that point. And I think, I don't know, did I say that in one album where he thought about becoming a school teacher?
Was this the album?
That's after they disbanded in
Oh,
1980.
Okay.
Yeah. He didn't know if he wanted to continue on as a solo artist, so he took some time off. I was going to say one thing about the relationship of the Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin. That the Stones were going to go in to record an album, and that album turned out to be Black and Blue, which is the first album done with Ronnie Wood.
Great album.
The Stones. And I just think it's funny. You're talking about presence like it was released yesterday. I cannot name one single song off the Rolling Stones Black and Blue album. And I've got like 7 Stones albums in the collection.
It was Angie. No, is Angie on that album? You know, Joe. I have to agree with you. No, I don't think Angie's on that.
Hot Stuff is on that album, I think, and something Hotel. I got into that. The album's funky. Black and Blue is really fun. It's a fun. They embraced the funk, the Stones during that era. I definitely know Hot Stuff is on that album. Personal, John Bonham on drums, JPJ on bass. Not any keyboards on this album.
No, this album is like lean. I can hear it. It's cut lean.
This is like Presto.
Oh my goodness! Seriously, obligatory Rush reference, like number 5,000.
Yeah,
it is their Presto.
It's their Presto,
or it could be their Actually, no, it's their Presto. Yeah, it's lean. It's I was like, it's straight to the point, which is great.
Into the outdoor, they go back into the keyboard thing.
Right.
They use keyboards a lot in physical. Clavinet.
Right.
Robert plays vocals and harmonica, and he does one of my favorite harmonica solos on one of the songs. Peter Grant, executive producer. Keith Hardwood, engineer and mixer. Hipgnosis artwork, and the artwork is pretty insane. Joe sent me the back today, and the back is just it's disturbing.
Yeah, Joe, put it up. So that Joe has the vinyl, and can you go closer? Yeah, that's it's funny because I feel like that's sort of and I bet you two have seen, which first of all, the album cover, and we'll talk about it and after we go song by song, but it's by Hipgnosis, and they're the famous people that designed famously Dark Side of the Moon and Wish You Were Here.
Yeah.
And I feel like this album cover, like it's
twisted. The family's holding occult instruments. The mother is either exorcising the child or putting some kind of Crowley spell on her. I have no idea.
I know, but you know what it is? It's like I feel like I was watching some just in preparation for this. Because I love Hipgnosis and their art covers. I actually should like get some frames of them. But what they were saying with that is that object represents Led Zeppelin and their presence.
It does exactly, and I was gonna get to that. It doesn't.
Which we'll talk about it after, but yeah, I'm happy Joe has the vinyl, the record, because
it's not what you think it is. It's like
although it looks like that.
Yeah, it's like a Dylan thing. It's almost like for years we went out and bought one of those things, Seance of the band I was in. Like we were so obsessed, and it's not them trying to talk to the dead. It's that Zeppelin had a presence about them. That's the album. It's not,
and that's represented by that object.
As a metaphor.
But if you want to have some fun, instead of thinking that there's an object there, think that they just cut out the object and it's a black sheet of paper. Just to blow your mind.
That's what it is?
No, I think it's...
Well,
if there was a real object, where is it?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
somewhere.
And obviously that's also a reference. I mean, they won't admit it, but if any of you two have seen the movies 2001: A Space Odyssey, also a similar reference to it, where a strange object appears, and it's a shape, causes changes and effects in people. So I feel like that's also a play on that. So it's very strange, very surreal, very weird.
What's that called? The monolith?
The monolith.
The monolith.
Yeah. So it's very similar. And the Who's Next, it's funny. I don't know if you guys know the album cover for the Who's Next. There's a monolith and they take a piss on it.
Oh my God.
So it's just really funny.
Charted number 1 in the UK, 16 in Canada, and number 1 in the USA. So it did good it just the critics are the ones saying it's the worst album. You know what I
Well, the
mean?
critics thought that there wasn't a lot of diversity, and I think coming off as Physical Graffiti, I'd have to
Yeah,
agree with that. But still,
yeah,
I mean, there are elements of prog with Achilles, rockabilly with Candy Store Rock.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think there's blues in T for One, and the rest of it is straight ahead rock and roll with some great guitar
It,
riffs.
Oh,
it
yeah.
really is. It really is. I will admit the only if I was being a critic, well, screw the critics, but the only song they could have shortened, in my opinion, could have been T for One. That could have been shortened a little bit, but and like maybe add another track that's I don't know, but I feel like T for One is a little too long for what it is. Like um, Achilles Last Stand is phenomenal. Like every
It's
minute,
like perfect. Yeah, yeah.
it's a perfect song. But T for One is like it's like probably like the weakest points. I'm kind of sad that it ends the album. You know, I feel like they could have
Well,
shortened it and added.
it's part 2 to Since I've Been Loving You.
I was gonna say, dude, it sounds like that. But I would
Yeah.
rather listen to Since I've Been Loving You than this one.
It's very
I read
similar.
on a Led Zeppelin forum that they wish that T for One had been played on the '77 tour instead of Since I've Been Loving You, and they didn't. Zeppelin only toured 2 of the songs from the album. They always played Nobody's Fault But Mine, and they always played Achilles' Last Stand. But
Yep.
some other songs were worthy of it. And
But-
For Your Life was done in the 2007 Celebration Day DVD movie.
Right?
Well, you got to understand they were rushing to make this album.
No,
Yeah.
it makes total sense. It
Yeah,
makes
you
total
know.
sense.
Who knows if they wrote in the studio, and it doesn't sound rushed. It doesn't sound like
No, it sounds like I had to give Joe a perfect rock record, lean.
Like, tight as fuck too. It's so
Yeah.
tight.
Yeah.
Everything, you know. All right. So speaking of Achilles' Last Stand, we'll jump into it. So the lyrics, the influence of mythology. You know, it's a 10.5 minute song. Imagine that, like 10 and a half minutes long.
Yeah,
That's rush.
it's an
That's rush.
epic. It's I wish Led Zeppelin. You know what I wish they could have done a prog album like this, like in this, like it would have been insane.
Yeah. I mean, going from like, you know, going to California to this, it's like, wow, you know,
That's
growth.
yeah, right.
You know,
Like
the album came out 2 years before that. Yes's Relayer.
Yeah. That's
It's like I listened to Gates of Delirium, which I
Mhm.
think is the entire album side on Relayer. And
Awake-
I wonder if Jimmy was inspired by that to do Achilles.
He might have, or even Awakenings, or Awaken on Going for
Yeah.
the One. Yeah, but that came out the same year. I forgot about that. Going for the One came out in 1976 by Yes, which is a very different album.
But you know what's funny? Actually, you know what's funny? But Achilles' Last Stand does sound like a Yes song.
Yeah.
It sounds like a Yes song. Actually, not to come to think of it, like because if you listen to you know, obviously Fragile, which and close to the edge,
And you
and
know
that's what's
the singer's name is John Anderson, right? We know this.
It's John.
right?
Joe, we were like
Joe.
we were like on a 5-minute quest. Like, who is this singer?
Joe, forgive us on I don't know what episode. It's not released yet. We could not think of John Anderson's name. Manny, we had to Google it. We were like, wait.
I gave up. I'm like, we committed a prog rock sin.
And I said Joe's gonna be mad, you know. But
I've mentioned him on the episodes that I saw him in concert at the Capitol Theater last
Right.
November.
yeah,
Oh. Wait, Joe, how was John Anderson live?
What?
How was John Anderson live?
He was fantastic, and
Nah, I
he
think
surrounded himself with some guys called the Band of Geeks, and you know they were very faithful to the Yes catalog. And John Anderson, 79 years old, was having the time of his life and
God
singing
bless him.
really well. And he's going on tour again, and he's playing in Ridgefield this year.
that's amazing.
Wait, is he? Wait, when is he? I gotta get tickets. Richfield, right?
I forget the month, but yeah, just Google John Anderson tour 2025, and he'll be in Ridgefield, Connecticut.
No, and I say that because I sent Cheech. I should have sent it to you too. I sent Cheech. Remember that him playing with Getty on
Oh, the
Roundabout?
Hall of Fame. Yeah.
And he was phenomenal for his age, just singing so.
That was about 5, 6 years ago when
Still though,
then yes got inducted in 2015, which we won't go there. It was sad, but Getty, because Chris Squire had died, Getty played bass, and you've seen that, Joe. They played Roundabout, and
Yeah.
Getty kills it. And I always said, like, it's like, Rush broke up, a couple years later. Why doesn't Yes just get back together and have Getty be the bass player and sing like Chris Squire sang, background? That would have been like a prog rock dream. I'm sorry, I know it's a G show, a prog rock's wet dream. I'm sorry, just had to say it. You know what I mean? It's like, imagine Getty in playing bass and Yes, so,
I feel like that's such a missed opportunity.
But I think I don't know if it's Rick Wakeman or Steve Howe. They don't get along, but unfortunately it happens. But so we'll jump into the lyrics now. It's the myth of Atlas, and he was a skilled philosopher, mathematician, astronomer, and he invented maybe you can help me with this word, Manny, celestial sphere.
Wait. So Atlas is the myth.
Yeah. But I think,
are you talking about Ptolemy?
Yes, he invented the sphere or something like that. It's
right.
And it's also, this is where I get confused, but it's also based on William Blake, Albion, Abelion. He founded Britain, and it was filled with giants. And I'm trying to think what I got here. And Elbrilion was the son of Poseidon, the Greek god of
Poseidon.
And Britain was the land of giants. And there's also some John Milton Book 1 influence in there. And Plant wrote this in his wheelchair, basically because he injured his leg, and it was kind of an inspiring thing.
Wait, dude, I had a thought here. I don't know if I'm wrong here, dude. Achilles' Last Stand, is this sort of like a reference to like Plant's Last Stand?
Yeah, that's. See,
and literally, no pun intended, or joke. I mean, he couldn't stand.
Yeah, and he hurt his leg, so I think he wrote it as a an inspiration that Achilles, our tendon is named after, was notable for the figure in the Trojan War where he slayed Prince Hector outside the gates of Troy.
Yeah. Right.
And he got shot in his heel, and that led to him being weak, and led to his downfall, and I think it eventually led to his death. But do you know why he had a weak heel? If you know your Greek mythology,
I do.
You know why?
His mother dipped him, and he held him by the heel, dipped and out.
Manny is good.
Legendary. I love my Greek myths.
But I think she held him by one heel.
One heel.
He dipped him in the river Styx, and the heel that didn't get dipped in the river Styx is the one that got shot.
Exactly.
So that's your mythology, man. I love it.
Dude, I love it.
So any comments on the lyrics? There's a lot going on. I couldn't find the John Milton Book 1 influence in there, but I'm sure it's there in the and I love the William Blake. Am I saying it wrong? Albion, the land of the giants.
Albion. Yeah, that's like his mythology.
Yeah, the land of the giants and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
think he even made that picture where that giant is eating Zeus's head or something like that.
Right, right. That's the one. Yep.
Yeah. So any comments on that before we go on?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about the first verse. I think it's kind of happy. It was hopeful
Okay.
because Plant writes, "It was an April morning when they told us we should go." And I think what that was is that Peter Grant and the accountants for Led Zeppelin said, "You need to go into tax exile." So they had to leave the country. So then the next line is, "As I turned to you, you smiled at me. How could we say no? Oh, the fun to have, to live the dreams we always had. Oh, the songs to sing when we at last return again." So
Mm.
what Page and Plant did was they went on a vacation with their families to Morocco and to Rhodes in Greece, and they were actually looking forward to coming back and performing songs again and being on tour. But Plant needed a break, but unfortunately, that was when he was in Greece and had the car accident.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
And
it's
this is
like,
this is before the recording took place.
yes.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that happened to a lot of English bands. They would have to go. Iron Maiden went to go record on certain islands and for tax purposes. I think they went to the Bahamas to record one album. So that happens to a lot of those English bands. Musically, great intro with great effects. That beginning intro is amazing on the guitar. So mystical. It's dreamy. It has that dreamlike feel.
Yeah.
Powerful drums, as Manny said earlier. Emotional, haunting lyrics. Great bass line. On his 8-string alembic bass. The rhythm section is amazing. Those drum hits that they do together, it's like something out of Yes and Rush, which is very different for them. It's a lot of they always did cool stuff, but this is very proggy, drum and bass kind of things. Very prog rock influenced. I would definitely say Yes and Genesis. Just an amazing, powerful song. Any comments?
Robert Plant considers this song to be one of John Bonham's best drumming performances in the studio.
Oh, I was gonna say this song is just it's so it's so sad. I mean, I don't know if you two would agree. This song starts the album so powerful that the rest of the album is weak in comparison. Like I hate to admit it. Like it's so amazing. Like they needed and you're right, Cheech, like I get it, like because they were probably rushed, a lot of pressure, and maybe I can only imagine what Page was feeling from like pressure from Plant, and because he wanted to go home, he didn't want to be there, and his frustrations.
Yeah, I mean,
but this,
I would agree to a point. Like, not everything lives up to that song on this album. There's the album's fantastic, but like
no, it is.
But not every song like that is just brilliant. That's their it's amazing, how it comes out. And the next song would be For Your Life, which is another great song. But then comes Royal Orleans, which I'm not a huge fan of that song. I think it's a good song, but I'm not gonna. If I had to put this album on now, I would probably skip over that. You know what I mean? But any more on the music? Any more? You guys want to add?
It's Jimmy's Guitar Army. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Oh, I will say, musically, it's like Jimmy. Again, like all four of them just give probably one of the best performances. Like I mean, you would think that after if I was Led Zeppelin, how am I going to follow Physical Graffiti? With this one song, they do it. Like it's insane. Lyrically, like you mentioned, I love how you mentioned the bass playing. The bass, you're right. That's actually one of the first things I noticed. Apart from, and by the way, the bass playing, it's amazing. It's only eclipsed by Bonham's drumming, which is so powerful, and especially on this song. And I agree. And Joe, was Page that said this is his best drumming, or
Robert Plant thought that the drumming by John Bonham on Achilles' Last Stand was one of the
I,
best works that Bonham ever did in the
I'll
studio.
I'll be
So I
honest
think
with you.
it's like a top 5 of Plant's favorites.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you. I mean, Plant it definitely has authority to say what is Bonham's best drumming. I would only say like this song and "In My Time of Dying," in my opinion, are probably two of his great drumming of all time, and his like masterpieces. Because I mean, his drumming sounds like no one sounds like John Bonham, guys. Like
There's no
I hate to admit it, like he's like a Keith Moon. Like no one sounds like him.
only
Yeah, I
drummer
mean,
that comes close. I'm going to cut you off. The only drummer that comes close to Bonham
Per
Power is Cozy Powell.
okay. Wait, did you hear what I said?
Who'd you say?
Neil Peart.
Oh,
Neil
no,
Peart.
well, no, that's a
no,
whole
not
different.
for power.
No, I'm talking about like power wise. Cozy Powell would be number 2, and that's why they thought about getting Cozy Powell after he passed. Cozy Powell's just amazing, powerful drummer, but nobody could replace John Bonham. That was, it was over, and that's why, Jason does such a great job, but it's in the DNA.
Jason will be in Stanford Sunday night.
Yeah,
Nice.
Joe has to tell us all about it. Take some notes, Joe.
Physical Graffiti album, all 4 sides.
You know who's doing that too? And I never really paid much attention to this band, but I guess because I'm talking about Led Zeppelin a lot, and however the algorithm or whatever on your feed comes up. Led Zeppelin. Have you guys heard of them?
Yeah, I've heard of them.
They're Jimmy Page. There's pictures with Page, so he must be in. They're pretty popular. I just found it interesting, and they're doing physical graffiti too. They're playing in the city, I believe, tonight at somewhere pulled out. But I listened to some of the music. It was interesting, very interesting from a female singer. The music was great. They got the music down. So the next one is For Your Life. And I'm going to keep
I loved it. It's like my top, in my opinion. Like if I had to remodify my list, I would include. It's funny, I would include Achilles' Last Stand. Believe it or not, I would include this one and Nobody's Fault But Mine. Which, if anything, Nobody's Fault But Mine is Delta Blues. Like,
well, those are my 2 favorites on the song too.
Yeah, I can see why.
So For Your Life,
Jimmy has nice guitar work on this song. Jangly. It's almost it's very bright, but the lyrics are very dark.
Yeah. Well, Jimmy stands out on this album like crazy. His guitar work is phenomenal. I mean, they all do. It's not fair to just say Jimmy, but he really worked hard, to get it out, or to put it out, like what Joe was saying with the Stone story. I'm gonna keep it G, and don't do what I'm about to say. Stay away from this bad stuff, kids. To our younger audience, it is a drug song about a specific drug that's white. That's all I'm gonna say, and it seems to be about the lifestyle that was going on in LA at that time, the way people were living in 1976. It talks about addiction, desire, and the longing, emotional struggle, the excesses of 1970s rock and roll, and it's also about the music scene. About a girl that they knew who fell into that lifestyle. And I guess he wrote this about this girl. The song was written on the spot in the studio. If you go to 5 minutes and 30 seconds in the song, you hear snorting sounds, which I thought was funny.
It's a cautionary tale.
Yeah. So it's like I remember Joe will probably remember this in the '80s. They had commercials, and I don't know why I'm laughing because it's pretty bad. Because I'm saying my friend Danny, they had two commercials. One was like "This is your brain." It was an egg, and they crack it and they put it in a frying pan. And it would be like egg frying. This is your brain on drugs. So some serious guy. And then this other kid would be like all messed up on drugs, and the father would be like, Joey, where did you learn about this? Why are you doing this? And he's like, I learned it from you, Dad. And I remember just me and my friend Danny laughing. That's what we used to always say. We learned it from you, Dad. I don't know. No joke, right? So musically, great riff, great groove, amazing drums, powerful vocals, great catchy bridge. Really stands out the bridge. Amazing bass line. A great song. It sounds like, and I think Manny will agree, and Joe too, it sounds like it could have been on Physical Graffiti. Like a leftover, maybe.
For me, 100%. Yeah.
Sure.
And the way this song chugs along, like it was meant to be played live. Like,
oh yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if Joe or they played it live, but if it wasn't, what a shame.
They didn't play it live until 2007.
Wow.
Like how? Like this song was meant to be played live.
Yeah. I think that Plant, as the singer, he probably didn't want to sing the song because it was not a happy song. And I think Plant was wondering about the whole music scene and the people around it,
Yeah.
There were a lot of people that were starting to die from drug overdoses at that time.
Right. Right. And you know what's funny, Joe and Cheech? At the same time that this album's released, Hotel California is released by the Eagles, and that's a total indictment also. Kind of similar to what they sing about this song. So
you can check in, but you can never leave.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of Tommy Bolin, the great guitar player, he passed away that year, 1976, from drugs. A lot of Paul Kossoff, I think, died the same year too from free. They were losing a lot of musicians during that time. Where was I? Catchy bridge, standout, great bass line. Just a great song. I said it could have been on Physical Graffiti. Very bluesy, soulful vibe. With a nice intro, with a nice climax. Underrated song. Totally underrated song. Should have been on the radio.
Jimmy has a pretty smoking guitar solo in there too.
Oh yeah. Oh well yeah.
Wait. Also, Jimmy's guitar solo on Achilles' Last Stand.
Oh yeah.
Dude, his guitar is. I'll be honest with you, his guitar solos are clean, but they're phenomenal.
Amazing. I forgot about the guitar. He plays a Fender Strat on this song.
The 62 Strat?
I think so, from the Yardbird days.
I think he would go on to use that with the firm a lot.
Yeah. So yeah, great guitar solo. Any you guys want to add that? On that, so I just feel like
I'm good. I mean, it's a great song, but it's a cautionary tale, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just
which makes the next song, Royal Orleans, funny by comparison.
Yeah, joking kind of song. It just feels like it should have been more radio friendly. It should have been played on the radio. It's such a great song. I don't understand how it got lost. Not to the fans, but like it's not. This is, and I know what you mean, Manny, when you talk about this album. Like, they don't talk a lot. The main tracks they're going to talk about is Achilles' Last Stand and Nobody's Fault But Mine. Those are.
And you know what's funny? You know what's funny? I noticed that you said the two singles. I'm not saying these songs are bad, but Candy Store Rock and Royal Orleans. And these are, I'll be honest with you, these are not the songs that define the sound of the album. like, eh, eh, like what?
Why'd they put those out as singles? I don't know. There had to be a reason, because Zeppelin was Zeppelin. They were geniuses. Total genius.
Do you think that was like a Peter Grant decision? Maybe it was a Grant decision.
Maybe it was a last minute decision because they were in such a rush to get the album out, and they said Achilles' Last Stand isn't radio friendly. Nobody's fault but mine is played on the radio a lot. I hear that, that in the radio. But I don't know. So Royal Orleans. Try to put this in a real G rating kind of thing. Now, have you guys ever been to New Orleans?
No.
I haven't.
Manny, Joe, you guys should go. It's the craziest place. It's like hell on earth in a good way. You know what I mean? I remember going there when I was young, thinking like, I hope I don't die here. Like that's the excess of New Orleans is so crazy. You can get into all kinds of trouble down there. And I've been into these places where Led Zeppelin went into. So basically, there's clubs down there, and I'll keep it G, where they have women that dance. They're dancers, okay? And I know for our younger audience. But some of the women are not women. They're men dressed up as women. And I experienced this myself when I walked into the club and
So now I see why you don't like this song.
Well, no. It's like I walked into the club and the singer, my band was like, dude, we got to go to the left, not to the right. The right was, they called them like transvestites, and the left was the women. So they exist. And John Paul Jones was smoking some good stuff. Now there's a couple different stories I read about this, and he passed out next to a man dressed up as a woman, and they wrote the song about it in a joking type way. But I also heard a part of his body was sticking out when he woke up, and I won't say what. I'll just leave it at that.
Whose body? John Paul Jones?
Jones, as anatomy. I could be wrong, but I think in Hammer of the Gods, Joe, that was brought up. Could be wrong.
I would have remembered that. What I remembered was that one of them fell asleep with a cigarette and almost set the room on fire. That's how I remember it.
That could be true, but the point is, he woke up with this particular person, and it became a joke, to the band. And they say he woke up, with his whatever, anatomy. They talk about streets in New Orleans, Bourbon Street. Take your pick of the beautiful ones. This one is kind of messed up. He kissed and he felt her whiskers. They talk about a strip bar. That kind of thing, basically. The New Orleans Queen, famous for transvestites, basically.
Wait, is that why I have a lyric here that kind of like in my notes? I love Barry White, and there's a lyric here. She'd best not talk like Barry White.
Yes.
Now one town love. Take care how you use it. Try to make it last all night. Take your pick. Be careful how you choose it. Sometimes it's hard to feel it bite. But my point is that line, she'd best not talk like Barry White. Like that cracked me up.
Yeah. But it's a joke. It's a joke.
It's joking. It's funny. It's funny. This song shows Led Zeppelin's humor, which I think you kind of forget. And I feel like Houses of the Holy also showcases Led Zeppelin's humor, too.
Yeah, the grunge is like a humorous song,
I think it's funny. It's like their humor. Yeah, exactly.
I just like the line, a man I know went down to Louisiana, had himself a bad burning fire. And the man, of course, is John Paul Jones, and he lit the room on fire.
Yeah,
That's how I,
that makes sense.
interpret
So,
it. And the story gets written
and you're-
around after that.
I don't know where I got my story from. I know I read it in either Rick Cole's book or Hammer of the Gods, and I remember laughing, thinking like, I can't imagine that. I don't want to imagine that.
I'm so mad that I got rid of all those books.
Yeah, I think
I
Richard.
had those from Davis.
I like Richard Cole's a lot, and Hammer of the Gods to me was my favorite one. Great opening riff, funky rock riff, with cool stops where they sing and then there's stops. Funky guitar lick, like the crunge. I compare it to the crunge. Nice drums. Great guitar. Classic Page. I love it when Plant says whiskers in the solo, and the solo sounds. This is word I'm trying to think here. It's a very percussive kind of solo. It's like very different kind of solo for Jimmy Page. Great ending. They play the riff over and over, and then I think all the members wrote this song. Am I right about that, Joe? Or?
Yeah, I think I saw something about that. Yeah, I think the only track. Credit to all 4 members. So I think that kind of gives theories to both of you. All of them were involved in something in New Orleans.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit more than a fire. I don't know, but so the next one, Nobody's Fault But Mine.
We're on side 2.
Side 2. Oh, I love this song. You know what's funny? When I first, guys, when I had to admit, when I was saying Cheech this, that Joe, where I, for example, Bob Dylan, I would skip John Wesley Harding, Nashville Skyline, and even Basement Tapes, and I it's not that the albums were bad per se, but I would do this also with Presence, where I'll be honest with you, I never listened to it except Achilles' Last Stand, only because that song was famous in the rock circles, right? With Led Zeppelin fans and people that make top 10 lists they put Achilles' Last Stand. But dude, the first time I listened to his album, first of all, I was blown away. And then I reached the song Nobody's Fault But Mine, and that's where I realized this album is a masterpiece. It's so good. And just the fact that this song, I don't know, and Gigi will go into it, I love it. I'm still trying to understand why. And if anything, if it's not Achilles' Last Stand, this song is one of my favorite. I would bump it in my top 10.
And side 1 opens up with Achilles' Last Stand, and side 2 opens up with Nobody's Fault But Mine. Power.
Mm-hmm.
There. Nobody's Fault But Mine. It's a cover by Blind Willie Johnson. They used some of his original lyrics, but they reworked a lot of it. And it's basically nobody's fault but mine. You will be doomed unless you live by the Bible teachings. That's the Blind Willie Johnson lyric. Led Zeppelin talked about some other things on it, like I got a monkey on my back, which is about addiction.
You know what that is? You know what that's a reference to, Cheech? The monkey on the back?
Yeah, heroin or cocaine, the drug addiction.
Well, I have another theory. That's voodoo.
No. This is more of it's an old term. Like when you have a monkey on your back, you're addicted to some kind of drug. That was used a lot in the 60s and 70s.
Really?
Yeah.
Never heard of that. Really?
Yeah. No, definitely. No, it had nothing to do with voodoo. It's definitely a drug reference. Yeah.
Well, the only reason why I say that is because this song is deals with the demonic.
Well,
That's the only reason why I say. And if anything, this song is
the devil told me to
like,
roll the line tonight. So,
so okay, so that's cocaine, like a drug.
yeah. I'm gonna change my evil. I'm gonna change my ways. You know, a person's struggle with regret and longing, reflection on excess and responsibility, and self-blame, blaming yourself for your life of sin, drug use, you know, whatever else. And that goes back to, you know, Blind Willie Johnson. But he wasn't talking about drugs. He was probably talking about, like, I don't know, just being a sinner. You know.
Well, because he says your devil. He taught me to roll. Is he referring to like marijuana or cocaine?
I think the line is, the devil told me to roll the line. I think. Joe, you have the lyrics too. I don't know. Right?
I have the Japanese translations. They're pretty hilarious.
So, you know, the devil.
I just take away from it. Bottom line, he's addicted to. He has an addiction, and he's going to lose a woman over it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the monkey on the back, that always stayed, like, I always remembered that line because I remember hearing like older people saying, "Oh, that guy's got a monkey on his back."
That's definitely outdated because I don't think young people, even myself, I never heard of that.
Oh, that would be like the Charlie Parker days in the 40s. That would be a jazz thing, like. If you had a drug addiction, you had a monkey on your back, or a blues thing. Well, that guy's got a monkey on his back, man.
Right.
You know, that kind of thing. Kind of makes no sense, but, you know, I don't know. It's just the
only reason why I said voodoo is because I read stories where shamans have to remove from people that get affected by voodoo curse. They have to remove, like, I'm not sure if it's a monkey, but it's something. It's like some sort of like animal, and they remove it. So that's why I thought that. Like, that's actually what I thought, and it could be.
Yeah, no, this song is definitely drug and excess and basically regret. You know, it's nobody's fault but mine. He ends it like that, you know. So it's like he blaming himself.
Robert Plant plays a great harmonica solo on that song.
Oh yeah,
it's like a blue. Yeah, great.
I mean, musically, bluesy, soulful, great, amazing. You know, great riff. You know, it's how it opens up. I think he used the same effect that he does in Achilles: The Last Stand. It has that almost similar vibe, the way it opens up.
Yeah, and it's like a great call and response between Jimmy's guitar and Robert's vocals, just like, you know,
where he's like,
yeah.
That's beautiful. I love that part.
No, and Bonham's drumming, it just like pieces everything together. Like, this song is so good. Like,
great.
Yeah.
I mean, great bass line. You hear the alembic. You hear that punchy bass line. Great guitar intro. Amazing. What makes it, for me, this whole song are the drum and bass hits. So after the first verse, they stop, and you hear the riff playing, and you hear boom, 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 boom. You know, it's very. I think Geddy Lee and Neil got the idea for "Spirit of the Radio" from this song, because it's
right. I could see that.
Good luck learning those parts with the drummer. They are so hard. Just part of "Spirit of the Radio." You know, like I said, it has.
Oh, and by the way, you know the cover, Blind, what was his name? Blind Willie Nelson. I think he also did "In My Time of Dying."
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah. He's the same. It's the same guy.
So
I
I think these songs are very spiritual. But Led Zeppelin, obviously, I mean, I'm not saying they're religious, but I mean the way they kind of covered it. I mean, this song is I when another reason why I loved it is because of yeah, you're right. There's sort of when he says nobody's fault but mine. I mean, definitely like he's under the control of the devil, but it's
Yeah.
kind of like a reference. It's a classic Delta blues theme where I met the devil at the crossroads. Like
He was almost coming from a gospel theme because he wasn't
yeah, well,
really.
that's why I like it.
Yeah, he wasn't. Blind Willie Johnson was a gospel singer and a blues
Yeah,
singer.
wasn't he a preacher? Wasn't he a preacher? Or am I wrong?
Preacher. Yeah, he wrote John the Revelator. You know, so he wasn't like a traditional blues guy like Johnson or White, but he was more that gospel 1928. I've actually talked to him, talked to James about him at the temple because he's into gospel. You know, James knows about him. I was like, why you know about Blind Willie Johnson? All right. So, any questions? Questions? Any comments on? Oh, the harmonica solo. I think it's the best harmonica solo ever on a Zeppelin album. I think he just kills it.
He gives Bob Dylan a run for his money.
Oh yeah. Oh, God, yeah. He's like Ingve on the harmonica compared to Dylan. You know
No, I love Bob Dylan. Wait, what do you think? Guitar harmonica solo on "Tangled Up in Blue" or "Here"? Which is the best?
I say Robert Plant is because it's
He's pretty good, but he's good.
He's playing like Sonny Boy Williams, really killing it on the harmonica. He's destroying it. You know, he's playing it like the last day on Earth. You know. So he really,
who would beat Robert Plant though? Bias here, but Springsteen
on harmonica. Wow, I have to listen to him on harmonica.
Yeah, listen to the river, Cheech. No, I mean just a joke, but listen to the river, Springsteen.
Yeah. And you don't count John Popper from Blues Traveler because that guy's the greatest.
Oh, I forgot about John Popper. Yeah, you're right. He might be the master harmonica player.
He is. Sonny Boy Williamson is the greatest harmonica player of all time, the blues guy. But John Popper took harmonica in a way like Eddie Van Halen took guitar. You know what I mean? Like he did things with harmonica that nobody ever did. You know, it's like chromatic.
Right.
You know, and this guy was doing, stuff that's unbelievable. So. But I love harmonica, and it works so well with.
Only played. I was going to say Robert Plant only played 5 songs of harmonica on Led Zeppelin albums, and they were 5 different albums.
What songs?
Just 5 songs, and that was one of them.
What were the other 4?
Well, You Shook Me, first album. Bring It On Home, second album. When the Levee Breaks, which is the one I always remember from.
Oh, right, same.
Yeah, and Custard Pie from Physical Graffiti.
Yeah, and he's so good on all of them. Like, it's a shame he didn't play more harmonica.
He leaves you wanting more.
Yeah, and I think if anything, if this solo is not his best, is When the Levee Breaks. But by the way, Levee Breaks and this song are very similar. Like in my opinion, like in terms of, how Cheech, how you kind of said how the bass and drum interact. I hear that on the Levee Breaks too.
Oh yeah, oh definitely, oh yeah. But the production's different, even on the drums. The Levee Breaks is powerful, recorded more. It has more bass to it. Like you said, it's more crisp. This album is more clear and crisp, and you hear everything on the drums, and the bass and the guitar. This is better produced maybe than like When the Levee Breaks. I think this album, because it's a little bit more it's like modern production compared to Zeppelin 4. The things were changing rapidly in the studios, and then by the time 1978 comes out, Asia, and then recordings sound totally different. So Any comments on that? Or we just, I think I'd rather hear Robert Plant than John Popper, to be honest with you. In my opinion, Steve Marriott too was a really good from Humble Pie, really good harmonica player. Just to throw that in there. So the next one, Candy Store Rock. I'll keep this rated G. The lyrics are basically about rock and roll. He throws in some Elvis influences there. They wrote this in an hour. They were under pressure because the Rolling Stones were coming in. It was released as a single, but it did not do well. Also, it's influenced by Little Red Rooster by Willie Dixon's lyrics. Ooh Baby is in every line, which I think is funny. Every line he says, ooh baby. Every single line. A woman is compared to candy, good enough to eat. Sting like a bee is a Willie Dixon reference in there. It ain't the rapping that sells the goods. So, and he sings it like Elvis. So it's we know what it's about. There's not much substance in the lyrics.
Yeah, he had a rockabilly vibe.
Yeah. It's a good song. Definitely a good song. But it's kind of your typical. Oh, Judas is popping in. Oh, maybe it's not. It's your typical.
It makes me wonder if the young Brian Setzer was hanging out in Massapequa, Long Island, listening to this album, and said, "I'm going to start to play guitar." And then 6 years later, comes out with the Stray Cats. My favorite.
Wait.
Have you ever heard of the Stray Cats?
No, I have. Wait, what was the story that you were mentioning? Like, wait, he heard this song?
I went to college with a guy who was in his high school class. Brian Setzer is the guitarist of the Stray Cats, and it just makes me wonder if he was influenced by Candy Store Rock and said, maybe we can make a comeback with rockabilly and make a career out of it.
I was gonna say because that sounds like this song sounds like a Stray Cat song.
A little bit.
I love it. I think Cheech, you still here? Let's see what happened.
Are we having technical difficulties?
Technical difficulties, sadly. Cheech, you still there?
So we have our Flaming Lips break.
Oh, dude, that's awesome. Wait, is that one of their albums?
No, that's probably an original artwork by Wayne Coyne. If Wayne Coyne is watching this episode, please come back to the Portchester Capitol Theater and do a show.
I love it.
We'd love to see you. We know you're going to be in New Haven this summer, but I'd like you to come closer.
I love it. I gotta listen to. You know what's funny? I gotta listen to them. The Flaming Lips.
The album worth listening to in its entirety is The Soft Bulletin.
Let me see. Let me find the Soft Bulletin.
The Soft Bulletin.
1999.
There is a song called Race for the Prize that they open most of their shows with. If they don't open it, they close it. Great percussion on it. And
what about Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots?
Yeah, Yoshimi's great. Yeah.
What's their style? Like what's their rock style? Like what is it?
They're psychedelic, but they have great percussion. They have a band member named Steven Drozd who plays a lot of keyboards, but also, is a drummer. And he's like their musical genius. I mean, he could do movie soundtracks if he wanted to. He's the brains behind the music, I think, and Wayne is the performer.
Oh, no way.
The front man.
I'll give these albums a listen. Wow. All right.
They put out a lot of albums since 1983, and a lot of them are inaccessible because they got really experimental. But The Soft is a classic. Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots is a great one.
Yeah, it sounds like a concept album, which is really cool. So Joe, I'm gonna send you another link because I don't know what happened with Cheech.
All right, so should I log out?
Yeah, well, yeah. So log out and watch for that email link. I'm gonna stop this recording and I'll see you in a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. So Flaming Lips, signing out. Or we were on that.
So we'll go to the next one. Yeah, but we'll just end it
Well,
with that. And I'll start the next.
Well, Candy Store Rock, did you talk about the music?
Oh, no, we were talking about Brian Setzer.
A little bit. It was like a jangly rockabilly tune.
Yeah, just bring that up, Joe. Well,
No, we did.
I think we covered it. Yeah, I talked about Brian Setzer and the Stray Cats
Mhm.
and how they might have been influenced by a song like Candy Store Rock because it had a rockabilly type twang to it.
I didn't talk about
And
the music.
on the next album, The Outdoor, they would do Hot Dog.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't talk about the music.
Yeah, so talk about the music, Cheech, because we talk about the lyrics. It's unless you want to touch anything else, it's like a rockabilly, Buddy Holly.
No, yeah, we could, I'll talk about the lyrics, and then if Joe wants to bring up the Brian Setzer thing again.
No, he did already twice.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, you ready?
You go. You're on.
Oh, wait. Oh, we're on. We're on.
Yeah.
We're so professional.
No, go.
God.
Talk about the
I thought it was
music.
gonna be Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought it was 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, all right.
No, we're on.
Okay. So it's basically a great riff with slide guitar. And then it goes from the riff following the vocals and it moves to a second riff. It's a simple song.
Mm.
There's a little guitar solo in the middle of it. It has that rockabilly feel. The ending gets intricate. There's a change to the riff. Great drums, and then it just stops. And it just, in the bass and the guitar just follow the riff. So it's a pretty simple song. It has that rockabilly vibe that Joe was talking about. The Brian Setzer kind of thing. So, sorry that I didn't. I thought we were gonna do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
No, all good.
So the next one.
No, all good. And one more comment. I feel like Cheech, one more comment on this song on Candy Store. What's it called? Candy Store Rock.
Yeah.
So I feel as though I know this is gonna be weird, but I feel as though this is Led Zeppelin's like rare moment where they embraced sort of like how rock and roll used to be, like that Little Richard, Elvis vibe that I think Led Zeppelin is interesting. They kind of did it on Led Zeppelin 4 on Rock and Roll, where you could hear that song could have been played in the 1950s, so it's they kind of left the blues for a little bit. I'll be honest, it works. It's fantastic.
Yeah. They were great at that. They were great at like recreating an old vibe and making it modern for the times. That's a great point. That's a great point. So the next one is Hot On for Nowhere. It's about disillusionment and frustration of the excesses of rock and roll lifestyle. Emotional numbness and a search for meaning, growing older in the lyrics. Has a great hook. Has one of the greatest hooks. That la 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 la, yeah. I love that part. That just stays in your head. And it has absurdisms in there, like Dylan. Reindeer and the snowman, and my hands will turn to clay. And he mentions the corner of Bleecker Street. It makes me think of Dylan, It's also about if I got friends who would give me, what do we call it? A blank all, Joe? A F all? The English term F all. Remember, if I had friends who would give me
I lost
the.
Cheech's
It's
audio
same.
on my end.
Wait, could
Hey,
you hear
Cheech,
me
go
now?
back. We lost you for a little bit.
Oh.
Yeah, go back.
So I said it's about Plant's frustration for Peter Grant and Jimmy Page. And there's a line that says, if friends who would give me a F all, and me and Joe were talking about, it's an English term for like getting messed over. You know, they pushed him too far. He didn't want to record the album. He wanted to be recovering with his family. So those are the two basic topics.
Wait, is that the song that goes like do 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 do?
Yeah. But the catchiness is that.
Isn't it funny because musically it doesn't sound like that. No, but it's funny. The lyrics sound a little dark, but musically it sounds very, very like.
Yeah, I think he's it's a send up. He's kind of like he's upset about something, and then he goes into the la-las after saying that his friends are basically blowing him off and not listening to his concerns.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a jab. I think Cheech was alluding to a jab at Peter Grant.
Peter Grant and Jimmy Page for wanting to keep working, and I think Robert Plant wanted to stay home and heal up.
Yeah.
Car accident and be with his family.
Yeah. And I just love that.
And I guess that's from the title. It makes sense. Hot's on. Yeah, right. And from the title, it says "Hot's on" for nowhere. I feel like that's kind of funny.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, so. All right. Great riff opener. Music stops and then starts again. Great vocal. That la 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 part I'm gonna keep talking about. Has a funk groove. Nice hi-hat part. Great middle groove that changes, very catchy. Great guitar solo with stops and syncopation. There's a lot of great bass riffs going on, and it ends with the riff and with the hits, with these really cool hits at the very end. So, you know, I mean, pretty straight ahead, simple song. You know, nothing like Achilles' Last
fantastic though, lean and fantastic.
I think it's a great song. I think it's another radio song. I heard it in a movie one time.
Yeah,
not that long ago.
Well, no way.
Okay,
that's awesome.
And
that sounds like a Foghat song.
Kind of does. Well, it's the same era. You know, I love Foghat. Great band. Slow Ride could be probably one of the greatest songs of the 70s. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Slow Ride is amazing. You know.
Oh, that song is so classic. That song that defines the 70s. Like that and More Than a Feeling. Like.
Oh yeah, it's classic. The next one before I completely get shut down. T for One. It's about. Plant is looking at the time. Literally looking at time. Plant leaves a woman and he can't get her back. 24 hours and minutes slip into days. 1 minute feels like a lifetime. He was only drinking tea and and he was missing his family. He's away from England, for tax purposes, and he misses his family. Loneliness, heartbreak, and longing, disillusionment, isolation. Now, the part about leaving a woman, I don't understand that, and he can't get her back. I don't, that's something that I got research on in the song, that it could possibly be about that too. But I just think it's about him missing his family and being alone and being ill, Not really a lot to the lyrics. I don't know what you guys think. Joe, you got the lyrics in front of you. I don't know what you think.
Well, your volume was your audio was kind of dropping.
Yeah, dude, Judas is coming after you hard, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's about loneliness for sure. It's kind of like for me, this is probably my least favorite song on
Same.
the
I
album.
feel like they could have cut it in and like added something else, but
What's the word? It's like a dirge. A dirge.
Yeah.
It's plotting because it's a
yeah.
blues. It's sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they didn't play this one.
Well, I will say, even for a blues song though, like it's it's good. I just felt like they could have shortened it. Like I don't know, like you know how Since I've Been Loving You is like 7 minutes, but that song doesn't sound plotting. It sounds like I love it. I can go on for like 5 more minutes and I would love it. Like this song sounds a little like I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to say uninspired, but it's definitely like weak point on the album. Like they could have shortened this song. And maybe add maybe one guitar solo, or maybe extend Achilles' Last Stand.
Yeah.
I mean, the recurring theme in the song is that it's like time is going so slowly for him.
Yes.
And it seems like a life.
So maybe that's like the concept then? Like it just
Yeah, so the song is
an hour feels
it's
like
slow.
a minute. An hour feels like a minute.
well, that's how the song feels like 12 minutes. Like I had to check. I'm like,
Well, that's
it's funny.
one of
I
the
was playing it in my car. At one point, I'm driving, and then I kind of forgot the song was playing because just the way it sounds. And then I realized, wait a minute, it's still playing. How long is this song? You know, but it's funny because I love long blues songs. I love them. Like, yeah, I think so. This one, for some odd reason, for me, is a weak point. It's like, it's okay.
Yeah.
But lyrically, I love it. You're right. I love what Plan is trying to do, especially that longing.
Oh yeah.
Very similar to Since I've Been Loving You, but Plan grown up.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point.
Maybe they shouldn't have.
Before Judas Takes Me Away.
They should have closed it with, if
grooves,
anything, they should have closed it with
great solo
Candy Store
opening the
Rock,
song.
if
Then
anything,
it slows down.
because I
Very
felt that
Since
more
I've
up,
Been Loving You.
like good like 1950s rock send off too. But and at that note, Joe, we lost Cheech again. I think he's done. So, I mean, we got to the last part. I don't know how at this point because he's recording on his phone, so his phone cannot handle the
Wait,
software.
I'm back.
I know, but I guess maybe I'll do a separate thing. But so, Joe, any like last minute thoughts on Presence, and I'll combine Cheech's like last closing thoughts.
I thought it was well produced, and Jimmy worked really hard on this. And like I say, it was his guitar album, and it would have been interesting to see what would have happened if this kind of material came out as a third album, and the Led Zeppelin 3 album came out after Physical Graffiti. It would have changed everything. Because the critics were all complaining about Led Zeppelin 3 because of the acoustic material, and this is totally electric guitar. You know, the critics would have wanted for a Led Zeppelin 3. You know, and then think if Led Zeppelin 3 came out after Physical Graffiti, it would have been just very interesting because, you know, the acoustic tunes would have come out after like Down by the Seaside or Yar. You know,
you guys see me? I'm back.
You know, because it always upset me, you know, and I felt the band's pain. You know, their disappointment that the critics didn't like Led Zeppelin 3. And that's why when Page and Plant got back together for Unleaded and they went out on tour, they would purposely play those Led Zeppelin 3 songs because they believed in them. They believed that they had merit.
Well, I'd agree with them. I mean, Led Zeppelin 3 is if anything, perfect album, with the exception of the last track, which it's funny. I think that's the what's that song? I feel like Led Zeppelin has a hard time with like their ending track sometimes. It was weak too, but but the album is perfect. It's perfect. I just can't believe the critics didn't get it.
Yeah, like the critics were complaining that some of the reviews I read was Presence was not diverse enough.
That's false.
And meanwhile, they're complaining about Physical Graffiti because it was, in their opinion, all over the place. It didn't have a cohesive like storyline among the songs, and of course, the songs were done anywhere from 1970 to 1975. But what that means is it tells me about critics is that if a critic can't do something, he
Yeah,
writes about
100%.
it. I mean, come on, these critics couldn't have done better. You know, I mean, Jimmy Page is probably saying, "Let that guy pick up a guitar and let's see if he can
Right,
write something
right.
good."
100%. And that's why, you know, I don't want to be a critic, because this album Presence is fantastic. I now have a new appreciation for it. And I realized, like, Led Zeppelin, like, I mean, I wish Cheech was here, but like Rush, they don't have a bad album. Like, they just it's just different, because coming off Physical Graffiti, which that's a towering achievement. I mean, and also Led Zeppelin 4, which is, again, it's kind of funny because Houses of the Holy followed 4, and I don't know if you think that followed it up. I don't think it did. But musically, Houses of the Holy was very diverse. That, if anything, that's their most diverse album.
And they had fun doing it. You could tell.
I think so, and I think you were on it when you said that Presence is Page's baby, because I hear his guitar riffing and everywhere. His stamp is all over the place.
That's why the next album is going to be so interesting to do with In Through the Outdoor, because that was John Paul Jones and Robert Plant.
Right.
On and we're fighting demons.
Right. And explains and I'm excited to listen to that album, because that's another album I haven't listened to, like, from top to bottom. I only know the hits, so I'm gonna be kind of excited to, you know, listen to that shift in sound, because I did hear that the album is very diverse.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So what do we do now?
So on that note, we're gonna, you know,
I think we have to close it up because Cheech texted me saying, "Sorry guys,
right,
I got
right.
cut off."
So what I'm gonna do is, so I'll film this, and then I'll probably do a separate one with Cheech, his closing thoughts, snip it together, and it'll be our Presence episode. So, but Joe, man, thank you for being on, brother. Like, this is amazing. Good, great stuff. Always,
I really enjoy it.
It's so much fun, man. Like, these Led Zeppelin episodes are like fun. Like, and it's making me like, I can see it. Well, I discovered Led Zeppelin because of you guys, so it's fantastic. But
all right, man.
Joe, man, till the next one, we'll see you on In Through the Outdoor. In Through the Outdoor, and then hopefully next, and after that, Coda, and then we'll go from there. So again, Joe, thank you for being on, brother.
Thank you, Manny. It's been great. It's been a pleasure.
Always. You too, man. You too. Till the next one.
All right.
And then Wayne will send us off. Cortez. Okay, I believe we're recording. All right. So we have been rescued by Christ. Unfortunately, I think when we were recording for Presence, Led Zeppelin's Presence, the spirit of Judas made its appearance and then took my co-host Cheech here. Yeah. And it was great though. It was just Joe and myself for like 15 minutes, and we wrapped up really nicely. But I wanted to make sure that I give you your due, because I know you had plenty to say on the album cover, right? Presence, which is very cool album cover by Hipgnosis.
Yeah.
The people that made Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon and Wish You Were Here. So they're pretty iconic. So you'll talk about that and your final thoughts, like favorite tracks of the album, your final opinions. So go ahead, Cheech.
Want me to talk about the album cover first?
Do the album cover first, yeah.
So it's kind of a confusing album cover. When you see it, you know, you think that it is something with the occult, you know, with that obelisk, I think it's called, but it's really not. I mean, it looks like a family is doing something, but the obelisk represents a presence, which is Led Zeppelin as a presence. So the whole concept is Led Zeppelin is the presence,
and they represent that obelisk.
Exactly.
Like, that's them, and it's crazy because they put themselves in like wholesome photos.
Yeah, with families, and in the back there's some really weird pictures and stuff that are kind of creepy, but it has nothing to do with that. I mean, it does and it doesn't. You know what I mean? My whole life I thought it did, but it's Led Zeppelin as a presence, and they were a force to be reckoned with.
Right.
In that sense, you know. So that's basically the presence part of it. Um, and it's just pretty simple album cover. It was a picture of a 50s or 60s family with that object in the middle, which is kind of funny when you think about it. It's kind of sick, kind of twisted English humor, and just so for most people, if they think it's something to do with the occult or whatever, it doesn't. It has to do with Led Zeppelin being a presence.
Right.
As far as the album goes, I love the album. I love John Paul Jones' standout things. John Paul Jones' bass sound, the 8-string alembic. Bonham's drumming on it is just unbelievable. The guy is just like out of his mind. Plant and Page obviously are amazing. Didn't know how Plant didn't really. He was actually really pissed off a little bit because he wanted to recover from his accident, and he did it anyway.
Right.
And I threw some jabs, some diss tracks at Jimmy and Peter Grant. I forget which ones, but and standout tracks, Achilles' Last Stand. I think the song For Your Life, I think, is the one on there. And obviously Nobody's Fault But Mine.
Yeah, which I think that's one of the golden songs on that album.
Yeah, the Blind Willie McTell one. I mean, amazing. It's just such a great, I like, and I do, I kind of like, I know you don't like it. I do like T for One. It is part two to what's the song called?
And I will say and I will say not so. I feel bad. Joe doesn't like it either. So because I have to say I'm not trying to be. You're the musical expert, so I know you get something out of it musically as well. I have to be a critic, but you can tell me don't be a critic. But no, it's a fan. I'll be honest with you. It's like a spiritual sequel to
yeah, like
to that
part
can't
two.
what's the song from Led Zeppelin 3?
Since I've Been Loving You.
Since I've Been Loving You, which I love. I'm addicted to that.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. It's unbelievable.
Wayne Cheech, let me ask you, and just before we wrap up on this on Presence, what's the role the album played in your life?
My high school days. I remember the day I got it. I was with my drummer, his kid Mike Messina. Mother picked us up. Back in high school, Saturdays we're going to the flea market. You remember the flea market, Manny?
Do you remember the one in Portchester?
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, the one in Portchester.
They had this. So what's funny? I don't know why they got rid of it, but
we could talk about it off screen. I know why. Why. I'm not going to say, but we could talk about it off camera. I don't want to. I'm trying to be positive.
No, for sure. Throw positive vibes out there. And it's funny, they had a cool video game shop there. I don't even remember, like cool video shop that me and my siblings always used to go and trade out our video games, get new stuff. It was really cool.
Oh yeah. They had a great comic book place too. Yeah. Rob, my brother-in-law Rob, loved the guy. He passed away, I think, a couple of years ago. And he was like the comic book guy, But we would go there on a Saturday and then in the 80s. And there was a guy named George. I mentioned him on the show. He had a booth, and we would buy, all kind of metal stuff from him. I'm not sure where I bought. If you went to the flea market, you obviously went to Caldor's, which was next door. So I don't know if I bought, Yo,
you brought up Caldor, and the only reason why I know it is because my parents used to talk about it. I vaguely remember it.
Yeah, it was Corvettes before that, and I think Joe said he worked at a Corvettes in his town, but then it turned to Caldor's. And then they had a great little music section. So I don't remember where I got it. I know I either got it at the flea market or at Caldor's, but his mom came and picked us up, and we put it in the car, and you hear, and
I love it.
Because the drummer said, put this on first.
And that's so you put on side 2, right?
Yeah,
I love it.
The drummer said, you got to hear the drum and bass hits in this.
Oh, and the drum hits.
Yeah, because this guy might
like, dude, I love
that part where it's like boom, 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 And Mike Messina was a master drummer for a 14-year-old. This dude was like, oh my God, I learned so much from him.
Now for our quick audience, who is Mike Messina?
Mike Messina was a drummer in Joe Salkman's second favorite band in the world, Seance.
Which he's waiting on a reunion. When is that happening?
I thought about it. If they call, I'll do it. I'll definitely do the reunion.
It's so funny. He always jokes about it.
It almost happened in a different form of a band a couple of years ago, but I joined Potter's Field. We had a great song called Nightlife, which really should have like should have got signed, and put us out there. It was our teenage anthem. Most
Right.
people who graduated with me, loved that song Nightlife, and we were like rock stars, man, in high school. That's probably the most I ever was a rock star was in high school, believe it or not, because like the kids like
I
loved
believe it.
dance. Like we were like the older kids hated us because we were like in 10th, 11th grade, and because we were like way, I don't know, we were like a presence in a way. We were way ahead of our time for like young kids. We were like super good. I don't know how it happened. I think because we practiced every single day, you know. And Mike, I went on to do other bands with too. I was in a prog metal band with him, and he taught me everything about like odd meter, different styles of music, funk,
Right.
reggae.
Right.
I think he went on to become like a high school drum teacher, like drum corps stuff, because that's what he was really great at. So, but shout out to Mike Messina, man. I learned everything from that dude. Great drummer, and the album Presence reminds me of him. So I'm always nostalgic when it comes to that stuff. So that's my memory of Presence. So
I love it. And just for a reminder on our top 10 episode, did you have any choices from this album?
I had Achilles' Last Stand, I
Mm.
think, and I think I had Nobody Swap of Mine.
Which I can see not that would definitely like if I had to redo my top 10, definitely add that song in there.
Yeah.
And Achilles Last Year is pretty amazing too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So very proggy, which you and I love prog, so it's like
Oh, definitely, yeah.
so. Okay, so any last minute thoughts on Presence?
No, just an amazing album. Underrated album. I think Zeppelin fans should definitely, non-Zeppelin fans, if you haven't, like, if you skipped over it, you should go out like Nashville Skyline. Listen to it. It's like Zeppelin's Nashville Skyline in a way because it doesn't have any hits. There's no hits on that. Maybe Nobody's Fault But Mine was played on the radio, but it was
And that's a great point. Like there was no, I'll be honest with you, that's my um because I'm a musicologist, but the thing is like I'm not like an insane like I'm not a Led Zeppelin expert or fan. I love Led Zeppelin for what they are, and unfortunately with Presence, you're right. There is no hits off this album.
no,
In a way, it's kind of inaccessible, and the only reason why I say that is because first of all, it starts out with a 12-minute song or like 11-minute. I think it's the longest one. And
yeah,
then it does this weird thing where um it goes through these awesome blues romps and
yep.
then rock hilly and then it's and the album cover is strange. Like it definitely is a little it looks like a prog rock album cover.
It does. It
So it
does.
could
It's
turn
like
off some people.
it's so simple. It's such a simple cover, and it has that like. I mean, we were crazy when we were in Seance. We were so into Zeppelin. We had pictures of Aleister Crowley in my basement. You know what I mean? My mother made me tear him down. We had like Jimmy Page was everywhere, everywhere. And like we wanted to buy that obelisk thing or whatever. We were trying to find those things. We were just nuts when we were insane because we were called Seance. So people thought we were a heavy band, but we weren't. We sounded like Kiss, our original.
Right.
But yeah, that was probably the best music experience because it was my first one. We all learned together. We started up in my attic, we wound up in my basement, and we took off. In high school we were just like the big band. We were the big band.
Right.
So
Oh, I love it, man.
yeah.
I love it, man. All right, and with that, that was our episode on Presence. Fantastic album. I'm starting to realize that Led Zeppelin possibly might do not have a bad album. They're kind of like
No,
Rush, in
no.
which they set the bar so high that we think then their lesser albums we think it's bad, but they're actually not. They're
Yeah.
actually golden.
Even like Coda, it was thrown
Yeah.
together It's a great album, and we're
And that one, it gets I don't know if you know, it's in the critic circles and usually Led Zeppelin fan circles, it's ragged. It's not
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
people don't put it. So I can't wait to do that episode with you and Mr. Silkman. But
yeah,
all right, Teach, that was awesome. For our fans out there, make sure that you comment, like this video, subscribe if you like what you watch.
yep,
And if you comment, let us know what you think about Presence. Have you heard what's your favorite track off the album?
yep.
I think we went in full detail. And if you want that seance reunion, make sure drop a
Yeah,
comment.
yeah. Throw your
down.
comment down, because could happen. We're Mike's in Jersey, but we could do a show. It was talked about, and it almost kind of happened 2 years ago, but with a different drummer. But it would have to be for me the original Seance band, and we would have to work hard because I don't remember any of those songs. There was a demo we had that floated around that a lot of people. I wish it could have got on the internet somehow, but
I know you were living before the internet age,
yeah,
right?
it was only it was a tape. But it's funny how one of my after Seance, maybe like in 1991, me and the guitar player we were asked to join a band called Visions.
Right.
And we made a CD that circulated. And I told you recently, somebody reached out to me about it from Brazil. So it got
Yeah.
Brazil. So
No, you told me about that. Yeah, I
yeah,
think that was on our one of our episodes that you were talking about that.
yeah. And I was like, how did you hear about this? And he's like, oh, I heard on the radio. And then I want to get a copy. I want a copy of the CD. Do you have one? And I don't have one, unfortunately.
Right.
And they're hard to find, but
Right.
it was cool. It's really cool.
No, dude, that's amazing, man.
I'm almost famous, Manny.
I think you are famous, man. I don't think you're almost. You have been famous. Nah, you're famous. Even like, dude, without going too far, like my little young Padawans, give them a code name. They love. I don't know where they came up with this, but they say Cheech. I remember and they'll, you know, them being that age, they're knuckleheads. Like they'll.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy how you kind of reach that, like that, So I think you're famous, man.
Uh,
Like whether I don't think you're almost famous,
I
but
appreciate
on that note, we're signing off, and then join us for the next episode on the People's Podcast, the Cheech and Manny Music Show.
Definitely. Take care. Peace.